Hello, good evening, Matilde. How are you? How's everything going?
Hello, everything's okay. Yeah, it's good. Thank you.
Okay, good to know. I hope so. So let's please resume what we were doing. I don't know if you were able to watch the class from Wednesdays, Matilde, or not yet. Let me know, please.
Not yet, and actually, I tried to find it, but I couldn't. So, yeah, I don't know where should I look for it.
Okay, I'm going to resend the link. Actually, I'm going to do it now. It's the same link that we got, right? I think you watched the class one time. It should be the first one. If it didn't work, I don't know what happened, but if you give me please 1 second, right now I'm going to share it with you. Okay,
Okay.
give me just please 1 minute, and I'm going to share it. Good. Now you can find it in the chat. That's going to be the link. All right, and over there you can find all the recordings that we had throughout all these courses. Okay, from A7, I believe, up to this one that is A12. All right, so you're going to find it. I believe that it's the third class. It should say it's one of the last videos. It's the third out of 12 classes that we got, right? So it should not eight, sorry, out of 8 classes, so it should be 3/8, and that's the one that you have to watch. All right, so I don't know if you have any questions about that or anything related to it, please to continue working. Matilde, let me know, please.
About that, I don't think so. Just for today, sadly, I don't have my computer with me, so I won't be able, to write like we usually do.
Okay, no worries. Actually, for today, I have something a little bit different. Besides working on this is going to be the only lesson for today. Because if you take a look at, well, you're going to watch the class. I got to cover two, even I think it was 3 lessons in total. They were short, and they were just two were kind of reviewing something. One was just the form in the continuous way of something that we learned, that is the past perfect. Okay, the past perfect continuous. As you're going to be able to see in the class, it's the same, but again, it adds the meaning of an ongoing action, right? Before another past action in the past. Okay, so again, if actually, if you get to have any questions, you can let me know. But the lessons were very, very, let's say, they were not new, all right? They were very familiar to what we know already. And that's why we got to cover those three. And today we have this, and actually we're covering this fast because, as I was mentioning in yesterday's class, what we're going to do is adding some extra elements as some reading exercises, and that's what we're going to do now. All right, so we're going to cover this, just some speaking examples, and then we're going to read something and we're going to have a conversation about it. All right, so that's what we're going to do. So let's begin, please, with this future continuous. I don't know if we didn't cover this. This is new, but it's something that we've used before. At least I've seen that you use this before, and you've used a lot of sentences using the future continuous. So, when do you think that it is a good idea to use this tense? Or what do you know about it?
Um, Future continues like. Hmm, well, I'm trying to think of a sentence, but not like in the should terms, right? Like we should get going. Yeah, I mean, and that's. present?
No, it's related to future, so it has to involve two expressions for future, either will or be going to. All right, I'm going to give examples actually because it's something that we used before. It's like I will be finishing that tomorrow. Okay, I will be finishing. That is future continuous.
Okay.
Right? I will be doing this and so on. So when do you say I will be finishing? And when do you say I will finish? Because if you analyze the idea over there, it's very similar, but when to use one or the other one, Matilde? What do you say?
I will finish and I will be finishing. I will finish. It sounds more, how to say it, like certain. I don't know if that's the right word. Yeah, like something will be done, and yeah, the continuous form, it's more like ongoing process that it will happen. But yeah, I don't know how to explain it.
Okay, yes, we're getting closer. Actually, the second one, right? Even though it is very common in all continuous tenses, here it is the same, right? Ongoing action. But let's take this into account, right? It's kind of the same as if you analyze the past and you have the past continuous and the simple past, right? You have one that is the context and you have one that is a very specific and definite action, right? And here it's exactly the same, but for future, right? So when you just want to say that you will do something in specific, definite, and in a punctual way, you just say, I will do this, right? I will do my homework. I will go out. I will, I don't know, right? Watch a new series and so on and so forth. But if you want to say that as context for something that you won't be able to do, perhaps, right? For example, if I tell you, hey, Matilde, let's, I don't know, right? Let's have a class, please, tomorrow at 3 p.m. And you say, right, sorry, I can't. I will be traveling at that time, right? It's not that you're going to travel at that specific time, 3 p.m. o'clock, right? No, it's just that before 3 p.m., right, and after 3 p.m., that is the action that you will be doing, right? So again, analyze again, right? The same. Future continuous for a context or for well, period of time in the future in which you will be doing an action, and in between that action, you cannot do other actions, or obviously you will be doing other actions as well, right? But that's the idea. So with that logic, let's try to see this very short lesson with some questions first. What will you be doing tomorrow between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m.?
Actually, the example, I will be traveling.
Good, exactly. Good, right? And that's not punctual, but we know that between this time, and even it can take more, right? Perhaps it's a trip that is going to take, I don't know, 5 hours, 10 hours, we don't know. But between this specific right, time, you are going to be traveling or you will be traveling, right? Good, that's one. Then you have, if I say this, right, we have a very common response to this because usually people sleep at that time, not always, but let's imagine that's the case, right? So if I say, or if I ask you, Matilde, could I call you at 3 a.m.? What's your response to that and why?
I mean, in this tense, right? I have to use
exactly. Like a future response.
I mean, I want to use can't, you can't, but it's.
Yes, actually, first you can answer this in a negative way, and then in an explanation for why I cannot call you right tonight, let's say, or actually right this morning or next morning at 3 a.m., you can add your response by using future continuous.
Okay, get it. Yeah, I'm like, you cannot, because I'll be sleeping at 3 a.m.
Okay, good, exactly. Good. And again, I'm showing that because it's very common to say something like that. It is very common. The main usage of the future continuous is when you want to say why another person cannot do something, at least when you are involved in that plan. Okay, so we cannot go to the party tomorrow because I'll be studying for my test, right? Instead of I will study, because you can say I will study, but you want to put emphasis that in that period of time in which that person wants to go out, you will be studying, right? So again, it's very common, and I would say that it's 80% of the cases in which you use future continuous is to say why you cannot do something at that specific time. Right? So that's the future continuous. Now let's read this, please, Matt.
Okay. Everything or just the example?
Yeah, we can just go to the examples directly over here.
Okay. Sorry, I can't. I'll be taking a test tomorrow at that time. Don't call me at that time. I'll be meeting with management to solve the problem.
Okay, thank you. And in these two examples, we can see, well, what I was saying, right? Usually we use it for this purpose. When you cannot do something in the future, of course, not always, because the main idea, as you can read over here, is it is used when you want to mention something, right? Anything that will be in progress at that specific time in the future, right? This is the formula. Very simple, easier than any other ones that we got. And we can also use, right, be going to for future continuous. It is also common, but of course, you know the difference between will and be going to, right? If you talk about will, you have predictions without evidence, you have decisions made at the moment of speaking, right? But if you talk about a plan, be going to is going to be the best option, right? So you have those details, but anyway, you know that you can still use be going to and will in the same sentences, in the same situation. So it's just if you want to be very precise and mainly in test or when you want to be very formal. But now, please let's read those three examples that we got with be going to.
Okay. Tomorrow at 3 p.m., I'm going to be having a serious conversation with my partner. She's going to be singing at home this Saturday night, so don't call her. What are you going to be doing tomorrow at 6?
Thank you very much. And again, so when do we use be going to instead of will for future continuous? When it is a plan or you believe that it is a plan, right? That's why we say tomorrow at 3 p.m. A very precise thing that you plan on doing. Not every time again, but in most of the cases, we expect people to use be going to for that purpose. Now, actually, that is the idea that we have with the future continuous. And we have one last part that is a review and a reminder for the continuous tenses that we got. Okay? So again, I know that this is pretty simple, but I want you to practice this with me with a short thing that you can tell me, please, in the future, Matilde. It is not going to be perhaps as natural as telling past activities or experiences, but I want you to tell me a set of activities that you will do in the future, all right, or you are going to do. It can be in a specific day, for example, tomorrow, all right? You may have some plans for tomorrow. You can use be going to. You may have some predictions or ideas that are not plans but you want to do. You can use will. And with some of those ideas, you can be using the future continuous to talk about the context. And you can use only the simple future, like I will do or I am going to do, when you want to mention only punctual things that you will also do tomorrow, but not as part of your main context. All right, with that logic, what do you say? What can you tell me about tomorrow? Tell me, please, all the things that you want to tell me using simple future with will be going to and future continuous with will and be going to.
Okay, I could say, well, tomorrow morning I will be traveling to I don't know if it should be continuous. No, tomorrow morning I'll travel to San Lorenzo. I'll be hanging around the city, visiting some family. Later on, I'm going to be with a cousin of mine to chat.
All right, there you go. Right, yes. And I can tell you that you follow right the same in the first example that you were giving, right? If it is with simple future or future continuous, I believe it was the right decision, right? Because you don't have anything in the middle, and you didn't want to say that anything was going to happen in between that, right? So I believe it is a good decision, right? I will travel and I will be doing an activity right over there because you want to put emphasis on the idea of doing that in a specific period of time, right? So great. With that, I believe that we have it. Again, we don't have to go deeper in this one. I don't know if you have any questions because we have one more part for this presentation that is a reminder again for action verbs. So I don't know if you have any questions about the continuous form of the future, Matilde, before going to this part.
No, well, I was thinking, for example, arrive with arrive, it didn't sound good in my mind, like arriving. I'll be arriving. I don't know if it's correct or it just sounded weird.
All right, in what part? Because perhaps I misunderstood one of the verbs that you were using. Because first you said, I will travel, right, to San Lorenzo. That's the first idea that you said. Then you mentioned something else. Is there the part in which you use arrive?
No. I was thinking of
something
another
else?
example. Something else, yeah. If I use arrive, I mean, I could use it in a continuous form.
Actually, that's what we're reviewing these action verbs, okay, right? Because remember that some of them are not going to be actions, or at least they are not going to be the best option for continuous tenses. Arrive, it depends. Why? Because if you're talking about an arrival just as a definite action, like I arrive home or I will arrive right at this time, the best option with arrive is always going to be the simple tense, all right? Simple present, simple past, and simple future, right? Always in all those tenses. But you can use continuous form with arrive only because sometimes it can take some minutes, and in between those minutes, something can happen. But it's going to be pretty weird. All right, for example, in past, it will be I was arriving, right? Perhaps you were on a plane, right? So I was arriving to, I don't know, right, Santa Cruz, Cochabamba, when suddenly something happened, or the plane, right, made a very, very loud noise. I don't know, right? Something happened immediately that took 1 or 2 seconds or 5 seconds in between that minute or seconds also that the arrival can take. All right, and also I was arriving right to Santa Cruz on a bus when right the I don't know, right? The tire got flat, or I don't know, something happened, right? So if something very specific happens in that period of arrival, even though arriving in a place, at a place, on a place can be very, very punctual, it can still have like a period of time, a short period of time, in which something very specific can happen. Okay, but again, as I'm giving you these examples, it has to be very specific and precise. So if you're not going to communicate that in your future idea, and of course for future it will be like a prediction. So in simple or in continuous, in future continuous, it's going to be pretty weird again, unless you are going to make a prediction. Okay, if you're going to make a prediction, for example, okay, I can give you just one last example that my aunt told me that I said when I was a kid. All right, she said that when we were getting on the bus, I looked at the tire and I made a comment and I say when we will be arriving right to the city, the tire is going to get flat. All right, so it was like my prediction at that time. Again, pretty rare can happen just in that specific time. Okay, so it's possible. It's not impossible because it's not actually a non-action verb. To arrive is an action verb, but because the action of arriving just takes seconds sometimes or sometimes minutes, it depends on how you want to see it. It's not every time possible to use it as a period of time for actions in between. All right, so I hope that helps. I don't know if you have any other questions before we go into this one, Matilde. Let me know, please.
No, no more question. It helped.
Okay, good. So here again, action verbs. Mainly, we want to see when it is not a good idea to use the continuous form, and this is for present, for past, and for future. Right? When right now we're taking a look at the future, but I don't know, what do you remember about this, Matilde? What can you tell me about action verbs that you remember from previous courses or classes?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it might sound repetitive, but they need action. And yeah, they imply somehow not necessarily moving, but yeah, it represents somehow action. Like in this case, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, no is a non-action verb. If I'm not
Correct.
wrong.
And to go deeper there, yes, no is the only non-action verb there. So how can you make the context, perhaps, right? You said actions because the word is there, right? It's an action. So what is the difference then between an action and a non-action verb? We know that these verbs are action verbs. They express actions. But what do non-action verbs then give us? I mean, what's the purpose of non-action verbs? And how can we recognize which one can be an action or non-action verb?
I mean, I mean, thinking of a continuous form. I mean, I cannot, or at least I think it's more difficult. I cannot say knowing. I mean, the process of that's doesn't sound good in an ongoing process. And yeah, I don't know what else I could say without using action, the action word. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't apply movement or yeah, or ongoing process.
Okay. Okay, yes, and what you say about no is good. And even you can be sure actually about no that it is going to be incorrect if you anytime find it in the continuous verb. Okay, you can find it in the gerund. So you can find knowing, but knowing is not continuous, right? It can be gerund, right? For example, knowing a lot of places is, I don't know, something that I want to do, for example, right? But knowing there, or I can say even it's better to say getting to know. But for example, knowing is not action, is not continuous. It is just gerund, right? And it's working as a noun, not as a verb, right? So we can see know with ing, but it is not because it is going to be continuous, right? Because as you said, actually we know something or we don't know something. We never say, and if we say it, it is incorrect, but we don't say, I'm knowing this place or I'm knowing this, right? Like knowledge. But you can say another action that is getting, right? You can say, I'm getting to know you, right? I'm getting to know this place. I'm getting to know this information. So you can say getting to know something, but you don't say, I'm knowing something, right? So yes, then that is a non-action. Or do you remember what is the other name that it has besides a non-action verb?
Yeah, it's stative verbs.
Stative, exactly. And why? Because they are just states, right? The state is like that famous, right, saying like to be or not to be, right? So it's that. If you understand to be or not to be, it's like this, right? To know or not to know, to have or not to have, right? Because those are very good examples about non-action verbs. The verb to be, know, and have. Because there you're talking about, right, a state, a real state that is the verb to be. You're talking about a very abstract idea that cannot be movement, right? That is know. And you're talking about possession, that is also one of the categories, right? So again, if you have the idea of to be, not to be, to know, not to know, to have, not to have, there's not in between, right? There's not knowing. But again, you can use other verbs to talk about that progress or that process of activity, and it's getting, right? Getting to know or getting, it's like becoming something, right? Just in that case, you can use it, but not with the verbs themselves. Now, we know, actually, we don't have the list over here. No, we don't. So let's try to remember, please. Again, I'm not going to cover all this. I'm just going to show you briefly, like to see if we remember some of them. But I don't know if you remember the categories that we got. I mentioned one in specific that it was possession. Do you remember the other categories that we have for non-action or for state verbs?
Let me think. I don't remember. I mean, categories. Um, think it was a non-action verb, right?
Yes, correct. It is part of one of those groups, and it is. But remember, right, it can be action and non-action verb, but the main meaning of think, it is non-action, correct. And what do you think
Yeah.
was the category that involved the word think?
um, I don't remember. I mean, I would guess.
Or let's give one example, and you give me the synonyms, and by giving the synonyms, perhaps you're going to find the category. What is an example of think when it is non-action verb?
An example of think in a non-action verb.
Exactly. Because it can also be action, so just as non-action verb in this case.
Okay. Mm, like I think this city is beautiful, so I cannot use the continuous form.
Exactly. In that sentence, you cannot correct. It is non-action verb because we don't say, I'm thinking that this place, right, is beautiful, this city is beautiful. We cannot. So, what is, there are two possible synonyms, but what is one synonym of think in that specific example? How can you replace think?
Belief.
Correct. I believe, or yes, I believe that you have. In other words, it is an opinion also that you have, right? Of course, we know that to think, to believe, and to have an opinion is not the same. But in terms of grammar, they can be in one category. So it is going to be opinion, right? So one category opinion involves these two verbs, right? To think and to believe. Good. That's one. Now, what do you think, or actually you know this one, right? What is the category for have when it is non-action verb?
Possession.
Possession, right? So what other verbs do you remember that are in this category, remember, or related to possession?
Um, mm, 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 mm. Own.
Own, yes, that's correct. To own, it is a non-action verb that is possession. And there's one word that is also very common, and it's used in a different way. Mainly, you mention the object first, and then you mention the owner afterwards. And it starts with a B.
With what letter, sorry?
With B. With the B.
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 Mm. Mm.
And also it has a very, very common noun. Okay, it has a noun. And you call that to all your possessions. Right? Or you tell me there, what is the synonym? Because to say possessions is not as common. What do you call in other way, in a form, in a different form to all your possessions? What is a synonym of that?
Like, no, but belongings, but that's.
Yes, actually, yes. You use that one mainly, right, in, for example, at the airport, right? You have your belongings with you. That's everything that is yours that you're carrying with you, right? And belong, it is also a verb, right? And it's also an action verb because you say this computer belongs to me, right? You never say this computer is belonging to me now, and then afterwards it's not belonging to me, right? So yes, your belongings, right, actually is going to be part of your property, right? Everything that is going to be a possession of yours. And actually, another verb is the verb possess, right? Because possess can be a verb and possession is the noun, right? So you have to belong and belongings. You have to own, right? All of those words, they are always going to be together, and you can use them sometimes interchangeably, not every time, but sometimes it's easy to use one or the other one without any change in meaning, right? Of course, you need some changes, for example, for belong, right? To have and to belong, they work with the same meaning, but you cannot just replace the word by one another because you need to make some changes, right? Grammatically speaking, the order and some things have to change. But that's it. Just one more, right? Because again, we're not going to see the details afterwards. One more category. I don't know if you remember one more, but if I say measurement, that's one category. What verbs do we have in measurement?
I mean, measure.
That's one, correct. And the other one, right? In that one, right, you can measure and you can say how tall you are or how big something is. And what about the other characteristic? What else can you measure in you? You have how tall you are, but there's also one thing that can be important. Right nowadays, there's a controversy about it on how you look sometimes because of it.
Right. The weight.
Correct. Weight, right? Weight. The weight without the T, it is going to be the verb. Exactly, right? Good. There you go, right? And you know that they also can be action and non-action verbs. Okay, with that we have enough. And again, we're not going to see this, but remember, B can be action or non-action. It depends if it's a state or if it's just a synonym of acting or behaving, right? If you're behaving in a certain way, you can use it as action. If not, it is a state, right? Because you cannot say I am being Luis, right? It has to be I am Luis or I am 32 years old. But we cannot say that in action unless again you want to say to behave or act. We have the same. When it's possession, of course, it's a non-action verb. But when you mean experiencing or eating, then you mean action, right? So again, you can stop in any moment. Right now, we're just reviewing. See, when it's perception, non-action verb. But when it means meeting or to have a relationship with someone, it's action. Look, appearance is non action verb. But when you use it as a phrasal verb, right? Looking at something, looking for something, looking after someone, it is action verb, right? Because the meaning is not perception, it is something different. Smell, taste, right? Actually, here I just want you actually to tell me. You can read, all right, smell and taste. When do we use smell and taste as action verbs, and when do we use them as non-action verbs? What do you say?
Okay. Well, the stative verb it's describing something else, and in the action, it's the person who's doing the action.
Yes, in this action, yes, the person that is doing the action, but let's be a little bit more precise in the first one. For example, when we say, right, that the bar smells of smoke, why is it not possible to say that the bar is smelling of smoke? Why is it not the case in that?
Hmm. Honestly, I don't know. It just sounds weird.
Yes, you're right. Most of the times it's just going to be just because of that, and that's great. It means that you have the practice, right? Or enough practice to identify that, and it's great. But remember this, when it's a stative verb, it is a characteristic. And if it's a characteristic, actually indirectly, it's also a possession, like the color of your eyes, right? You have, for example, brown eyes. You don't say that you are having brown eyes, right? So the same here, the possession that this bar has is the smelling of smoke, right? But I'm saying smelling as a gerund. But we don't say the bar is smelling now because that's the possession that it has. So that's the characteristic. You only say is smelling when a person voluntarily and as an action can use, right, a part of their body to smell something, right? So if it's not the case, the bar cannot smell actively and the meat cannot smell actively, but they can produce a smelling and they can produce a taste, right? So that's why, all right, because it is a characteristic that works as a possession and it's not an action that they are doing. All right. And if you get that, it's the same with the next one. That is the last one we're going to see, weight and measure. Right. If you use weight and measure as non-action verbs, they are possession in the way of being a characteristic. Right. Again, right, the suitcase cannot actively weight something. So we don't say the suitcase is weighing 20 pounds, right? It weighs because it is a possession that it has. It is the weight that it possesses, right? Or it possesses. The same for the subword, but you can say that a person like the butcher or the architects can be weighing something or can be measuring something by using tools to do so, right? That's the only thing I wanted to remind over here, Matilde. I don't know if you have any questions about these possible verbs that can be stative or action verbs. Let me know, please.
No questions. It's clear.
All right, good. So with that, then it means that we're finishing. All right, this was like a new lesson, but about something that we knew that it was future continuous. Now we're going to work on something that I told you. And the purpose of working with this, all right, it's mainly to practice our reading skills, to see the reading comprehension, to learn some new vocabulary, all right? And this is going to involve two things. Perhaps right now it's going to be a little bit difficult because right now you're on your cell phone. But what you're going to be doing with me while we read is actually that every time we finish at least one paragraph or a part that I'm telling you to read, you're going to tell me the words that you don't understand, but I'm not going to tell you the meaning. You're going to look for the meaning and you're going to read the meaning. And then you're going to give me one example with that word. Okay, just for words that are new for you and that we need to practice to be sure that it is clear. All right. But right now, again, we're going to just be reading and we're going to see how your comprehension right skill is working here. So this is the title. Actually, let's read the title of this article, please.
Okay. Adolescent maturity and the brain, the promise and pitfalls of neuroscience research in adolescent health policy.
Good. Now, what can you tell me just by reading that? We can call it headline, but this is not like a journal, so that's what we call it. Also, only a title. So just by reading that title, what can you tell me about this? What is this going to be about? Again, we have, of course, the information there, but give me some predictions or some ideas.
Okay. So, well, this is research that will, that will explain about, the adolescent maturity. The brain of an adolescent, and and how this is linked to health policy.
Yes, and in what way do you think that it can affect? Because when we talk about health policy, it can be something broad and actually interesting because you're getting into politics even when you talk about the health policy. But in what way can the knowledge about the brain of adolescents can affect those policies? What kind of knowledge do you think that it can give to this other group that work with health policy?
If you have like a fond understanding of how it works, that could influence how you create policies in education, or I would say mainly that.
Okay, good. And now, before we get into the article, again, we're not going to read this paper entirely, but at least some interesting parts, and then you continue working on it, all right, if you're interested on it. But how much do you know about it, Matilde? What do we know about the brain of adolescents so that we can change, for example, how the world works now? Because, right, how everything is established now, it is the way it was established like centuries ago, and perhaps we didn't have the knowledge that we got about the brain. Of course, we had some changes, but you know that because of neuroscience, this has been increasing a lot, and well, we know way more than before. So, what do you say? What kind of knowledge do you think that is important to take into account to change some things about how it works? I mean, everything in the world. It can be even, I'm talking about the age to vote, talking about being responsible of your acts. I'm talking about the role of adolescents in society in general. So, what do you say? What do you know about it? And what do you think that is important to know?
Well, you mean if I know like as a background, or if I have heard about it before?
Yeah, perhaps the knowledge that you have about the adolescents and the brain, how it works on them, anything that you've heard before, and what type of that knowledge that you got perhaps do you think it's important that, for example, I don't know, right, the policies in your city or in the country, that they should take that into account because you believe it's important, but they don't take that into account yet.
Honestly, I haven't. Yeah, I haven't heard much about this topic. Yeah, not adolescent. No, not at all. I would say.
All right, good. So,
I mean, of course, I know that there must. I mean, it might have a link, but yeah, I haven't explored it yet.
okay, good. This means, right, we're starting from that point. And again, because I want to make a contrast, all right, between that and what we're going to see now. So let's then see, all right, what they have for us. This is the abstract, and we're going to start by reading it, please. I don't know if it's okay there. I can zoom one more time, I think, over
Yes,
there.
please.
So let's start by reading this, please. Everything that you have there.
Okay. Um, try to zoom it a little bit. Okay. Longitudinal neuroimaging studies demonstrate that the adolescent brain continues to mature well into the 20s. This has prompted intense interest in linking neural maturation from maturity of judgment. Public policy is struggling to keep up with burgeoning interest in cognitive neuroscience and neuroimaging. However, empirical evidence linking neurodevelopmental process and adolescent real-world behavior remains sparse. Nonetheless, adolescent brain development research is already shaping public policy debates about when individuals should be considered mature for policy purpose. With this in mind, in this article, we summarize what is known about our adolescent brain. Sorry, I'll move this, I cannot see. Adolescent brain development and what remains unknown, as well as what neuroscience can and cannot tell us about the adolescent brain and behavior. We suggest that a conceptual framework that situates brain science in broader context of adolescent development research would help to facilitate research to policy translation. Furthermore, although contemporary discussions of adolescent maturity and brain often use a deficit-based approach, there is enormous opportunity for brain science to illuminate the great strengths and potentialities of the adolescent brain. So too can this information inform policies that promote adolescent health and well-being.
Thank you very much, Matilde. Now, I'm going to leave it there. You can scan everything a little bit one more time and try to explain this in your own words, please. What is this abstract telling us about this paper, and why can this paper then be important in many ways? What do you say? Scan it and let me know, please, everything that you have here in your own words.
um, well, I would say this research it's important because it has the vision to translate the information that is going to be researched here to policy translation. So I'm thinking, for example, in terms of vote. I mean, when should a person should vote, which age, for example, a person should vote, that if it's matured enough to do it. I mean, scientifically, with with what's the word, with the evidence to support that decision, and that's related to policy making. So yeah, I mean, in that sense, I think it's very important.
All right, good, yes. And as you're going to see later on, they are going to mention other things, for example, being a president, right? In some countries, in many countries, there's like requirements, right? In some of them, it's being over 30 years old, right? But not only for being a president, also to be part, right, of certain, I don't know, right, interesting positions in a political area, field, or I don't know, right, to have an important position in many of these places, you always have this type of requirements. But again, actually, some of them, or most of them, they don't know about neuroscience and how the brain works. And the decision that they have made, as you're going to see later on, it was based on something that we knew, again, many decades or centuries ago, right? But again, now, if you look at the beginning, you have a very interesting detail over there. And if I ask you this question, the answer is not there. But what do you know about how long does the brain takes to mature completely? What do you know about that? How much time does the brain take to mature completely in humans in this case, because it's different in different species?
I mean, honestly, I don't know. Well, I'm exploring this information here, and yeah, I mean, it says that it continues to mature into the 20s. I would say that's everything I know so far.
And by reading that information, right, if it says continues to mature into the 20s, it means that perhaps, right, the complete maturation without knowing any information, it is going to be after the 20s, right? So for example, look, I'm asking you that because that can be one type of question that you can get on the TOEFL. All right, on the TOEFL, you're going to have a reading exercise like this. You don't know anything about it. You're going to see topics that you've never read about, and you're going to have questions related to the information that is there. And believe me, some of the questions are going to be very easy, like it is there. But the ones that are worth more, all right, scoring, they are going to be not direct questions. They're going to be like my question over here, right? So they are going to ask you, when do you believe that the brain finishes maturing? If you say, for example, in the 20s or in 20 years old, that perhaps might be incorrect because it says that it continues maturing into the 20s, right? If the other question is before that, of course, it's incorrect. But if you have one response that says near 30s, right, it is more possible, right, that it's going to be near the 30s, because if we said that in the 20s it continues, it's very likely that in the 30s is the time, right, at which the brain stops maturing, right? So that's what you have to be analyzing. Everything here can be part of one question. And you can have very hard questions or very hard tasks. For example, they are going to give you a new line, okay? It can be 2 or 3 lines. And you have to be able to immediately, of course, not immediately, but actually you have to do that fast, to place those 3 lines in a specific part of this paragraph. Okay, so you have to analyze this quickly. Just in one part, it can fit correctly. In the other ones, it is going to be incorrect. All right, for example, adding something like, and it is said that it is nearly the 30 years, right, of age that the brain gets to mature completely. Right now, because we've been talking about that, we know that perhaps the correct place it is going to be this one. right? But if you have not read this entirely, you have options. They are going to ask you, is it going to be here between this and this? Is it going to be here between this one and this one, over here? Or is it going to be at the end of the paragraph, right? And only one of them is the one that makes sense. All right, so again, we have to be ready for everything. And even though we're going to see a lot of information we don't know, we have to be ready to form a lot of our hypotheses. We have to be ready to understand what is not clear for us, but we have to just follow what seems to be right according to the information that we got here. All right, now, again, just one more detail perhaps. Let's try to understand the words, for example. Again, remember that over there, we're not going to have dictionaries, anything. So how do you think that you can explain the word burgeoning? It says keep up with burgeoning interests, because that's another type of question that you have in the TOEFL. Of course, it's easier, sometimes easier because you have the synonyms, but sometimes the synonyms are even, all right, I don't know, were way hard to find than this one. Perhaps this is, I don't know, what do you say about that word? What is burgeoning interest?
Like with not, I'm trying to find another word, not intense, but like with really, like really interest.
All right, now I'm going to give you options. You tell me which one you believe is better in this one. I'm going to, it's not, all right, as tough as in the TOEFL, but if I say declining, increasing, really, and denying, let's say, all right, I'm just putting that there. So what do you say? Declining, increasing, really, denying. Which one do you think fits better there just by replacing that word?
Okay, declining, increasing.
Really, the word that you said, like really something, and denying, denying.
Denying, okay.
So in this context, which one would be better? One key is something that can help you. All right, can be, but look, actually, one thing is going to make declining out of the possibilities. And what is that? To keep up, right? What is to keep up with something? You usually keep up with something or someone when you are a little bit behind it, right? You are behind it. For example, you were not in the last 5 classes, right? And now you have to keep up with your partners. It means that you have to reach the same level. So actually, you have to go upwards or forward, right? You're not going to keep up going backwards, all right? And just by saying keep up with something, we are saying that this is going there. So the possibility that the only one that fits there is increasing, the growing, all right? The growing interest, the increasing interest in cognitive neuroscience. And you analyze, right, it says public policy is struggling to keep up with it because it's not changing, right? As I told you, even though we've had a lot of changes in law, of course, many things have changed in the last century. Many details remain the same as they were, right, many years ago. And that's what they say, right? Public policy, again, struggling to keep up with the increasing or growing, and even this is even stronger than growing, than increasing, right? This is like a big increase of something. That is the interest in cognitive neuroscience and neuroimaging. All right, but again, because of the time, we're going to be stopping here. But that's what I wanted to show you, and actually, this is what we're going to be doing. All right. Besides working on the speaking practice, we're going to be getting these new words. We're going to be understanding these new words, but we're also going to be understanding the, of course, the everything, the overall of this paragraph we're going to be reading. Perhaps sometimes we're going to read just 1 or 2 paragraphs per class, but that's going to be more than enough because in every paragraph we have a lot of information and we can play a lot with the words, with the order, with the possibilities. All right, so that's it. I don't know if you have any questions about it, Matilda, and you also let me know if you believe that this practice can be good for you, or what do you think about it? Let me know, please.
Yeah, I think it's great, and now I see it. The burgeoning sense. So yeah, I think it's great to practice this too.
Very good. And again, remember, the next one you're going to be in your computer have a lot of extra classes, but at least I want to, yes, I want you to see a way of working some reading exercises so that you on your own, right, you can look for interesting papers. I'm going to show you, right, a very interesting web page in which you have access to papers from many different fields. And actually, the TOEFL gets some of their material from those web pages. All right, so reading again those ones and practicing in this way is one of the best ways of getting ready for the TOEFL. But that's it. As always, we're finishing here. I'm sending the poll that you might be able to see now. Please remember that as we're about to finish everything, don't forget to work on Pearson. Remember that, well, actually, this is, yes, I'm going to send one more because this is the 4th class. Okay, I'm thinking that we're going to finish. Yeah, we have 4 more classes. So this is the other survey, please, Matilde. So I was saying we have 4 more classes. We need to work on Pearson. We need to be sure that everything is clear. If you have questions about anything over there, let me know. Remember that this time we have to do everything that is possible for us to finish Pearson on time because it's going to be hard to give extra days for those ones due to the fact that I really need to send this course because I think you're going to start the preparation course. I don't know when they told you you're going to be starting with that one, but they told me that the last course is the one that I really need to send information on time because they usually start classes and you have a different teacher with you, and because of those changes, they need to have all that information. Do you know anything about it? Do you know when you're going to start the prep course? Matilda, let me know, please.
No, not really. I haven't heard anything.
Okay, but usually it's not far from the last date of the last course that you get. That means 8/12. But again, they are perhaps going to contact you and let you know about it. But I'm just telling you so that you know that we're not going to have a lot of extra days after the last day we have together. Okay, just that one again. I hope you have a good night, a good weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.
Okay, thank you. Have a good weekend too.
Thank you. Bye bye. Good night.
Bye.